Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Whitney Inge. I'm the Director of Alumni and Donor Engagement, and we are really excited for this afternoon's presentation. I am going to just take a few minutes to do a little bit of housekeeping with you all, and then I'm going to pass it over to Scott, who's going to talk about the American Rescue Plan impacting your taxes. So for those of you who are not familiar, we are in our Blackboard Collaborate program here. I know Scott would love for this presentation to be interactive, so please feel free to ask questions. The way to do that is over on your left-hand side. You should see a little purple icon that's got some arrows pointing over to the left. Open that up. You'll see a little chat bubble there. That's your opportunity to type any kind of questions or feedback that you have in that area. And we will pause throughout. If those come up, we'll also leave some time at the end for some questions. This is also being recorded, so if there is anything in here that you want to make sure that you remember or you can't write things down right now, we'll be sending this recording out as a follow-up to this webinar. So without further ado, I would really love to introduce Scott Gimini, who is a CPA, an employee of Davenport University, and we've got some really exciting tax topics to talk about. So Scott, please.
Sorry, thank you, Whitney. I really appreciate the kind introduction. Excited to be here and to discuss with the audience. And I recognize Michael Case's name. So welcome. Thank you for being here. Looks like a couple more are coming in. That is awesome. I do have a slideshow I would like to share with you, and I'm just covering. I'm sure you've seen it advertised. The American Rescue Plan and how I cannot get the slideshow to work. I apologize. And how the American Rescue Plan changed the tax structure for 2021. So I'm trying to bear with me a moment. I'm trying to make the other monitor go away. Maybe Michael knows how to do this better than I do, but it keeps. I'm going to try one more, and then we'll just go without it if this does not work. It keeps wanting to put my slideshow on the second screen, which is not cool. But let me share my screen with everyone first here, and we'll get going. Ah, that worked. Cool. So, share application screen. Let me know if you're able to see a bunch of cascading windows. If so,
We sure can.
Got it. Thank you, Whitney. Good. That's what you're supposed to see. I'm going to put up my. Thank you, John. Put up my PowerPoint, and then we're going to do from the current slide. And like I mentioned, going to talk about the American Rescue Plan and just interrupting. I know Eric and Whitney are following along, so if you see in the chat area any questions that come up, or feel free to just turn on your microphone and say, hey Scott, I have a question about what you're discussing here. Let's get those addressed and out of the way as they come up, rather than waiting until the end. I will have a time at the end for questions if you wanted to wait, but like Whitney said, the interactive piece would be cool. So the American Rescue Plan, if you don't know, is the latest legislation related to the COVID pandemic that occurred or was passed early in 2021. It was Biden's first big move as the president, and a lot of it from a tax perspective was just to make sure individuals are still getting assistance as this pandemic is still occurring. Hopefully we are at the tail end of it. But it was a $1.9 trillion package, and there were some very specific tax law changes related to individuals. And that's where I'm going to focus my presentation today. A lot of those changes related to people with children, so I'll talk about that. I'll also go into the rebate recovery credit, which is really what the stimulus payments have been. I also want to talk about Michigan. There's some specific Michigan rules that have changed between 2020 and 2021. If there's time, I'll do a brief live demonstration in TaxSlayer, which is the software that we use as part of our VITA program. And then I do want to plug the Davenport VITA program. I am in my second year as director for the program, taking over from Judy Knapp, who did an extraordinary job building it up to what it is today. And it is a very cool program that I will discuss towards the end. But please let me know if there are any questions as I go on. So first, the child related. So this is all stuff with the most recent, the American Rescue Plan, the most recent legislation. There's a lot, like I mentioned, of tax laws that have been around. So the earned income tax credit, the child tax credit, and the child, these are credits that have been in existence for many years, but they slightly changed. And this is an IRS poster that our IRS agent gives us for the VITA program. But these are the major changes to these credits, and I'll go into some details about a couple of them that occurred due to the American Rescue Plan. So earned income tax credit, that is a major one, especially in the VITA program. We deal with a lot of low income situations, so that is a big one. That's been expanded under the American Rescue Plan. You can see what the changes are, some of the eligibility requirements. The child tax credit was the one that was talked about the most. So that was the largest change. It used to be capped at $2,000 per eligible individual. They increased that, and then they allowed taxpayers to receive a portion of that credit in advance. And I will go into more detail on that one in a later slide here. And then the last major change for individuals with the American Rescue Plan was the Child and Dependent Care Credit. That they increased substantially in 2021. And the biggest aspect for this one and the child tax credit, and you see it right here on this poster, but individuals now can be refunded for these credits. They used to be non-refundable credits, and what that means is it only writes down your tax liability. So some taxpayers do not have any tax liability because of other credits or their income isn't high enough. So really these credits, the earned income one being an exception, that's always been refundable. But the child tax credit and the child and dependent care credit weren't very substantial because they weren't refundable. So once your tax liability was zeroed out, you got no more benefit from either one of these taxes. But the 2021 change, you now get a refund even if your tax liability is zero. So it says right here, you might receive a tax refund even if you're not required to file. So in our VITA situations, we see Social Security recipients now filing federal tax returns when they normally don't, just to claim some of these credits. Now, granted, if Social Security recipients still have children. The child and dependent care, in terms of people like working at Davenport who have kids, that one probably impacts them more, especially if they're paying for daycare, which is outrageously expensive. That one was non-refundable, but now you can get a refunded portion of that credit. So these are the changes. I will talk about some of the other changes of the American Rescue Plan, but these are the ones related specifically to children. The next slide here, the child tax credit. So this one was probably the most discussed, had the most changes. The biggest one here being that taxpayers, if they elected to, and they didn't really have to elect to, it was automatic, they would have to unelect from it, but they received half of the child tax credit in advance. So, and that started in July of 2021. The total credit is $3,000 per child, ages 6 through I'm sorry, yes, ages 6 through 17. So 3,000 per child who was age 6 through 17 as of 2021. If there was a child that was 5 or younger, then the credit was 3,600. I had mentioned that, I think here, 3,600 for each child, age 5 or under, 3,000 for 6 through 17 at the end of 2021. So half of that credit, either one of those credits, were paid in advance starting July of last year. And if you had one child that qualified, and it was a child that was age 5 or younger, you were getting $300 a month automatically, unless if you elected out of the advance payments. But you would get $300 a month for that child starting in July of last year. And you would have gotten that all the way through December, and that would have added up to the $1,800 amount, which is half of the 3,600, half of the entire credit. If you had a child that was 6 through 17, it was $250 a month that was received in advance. So very good credit. People, enjoy getting their tax refund sooner rather than later. But with all of these advance payments of credits that are typically claimed when filing taxes, there's some issues. And I mentioned the largest one here is being a divorce or parent situation, especially ones with separation agreements. So the most common one that I have seen are parents where even years, one parent claims the children, and then odd years, another parent claims the child or children. So where this presents an issue is the advanced child tax credit, the advance of the 2021, so this is a 2021 expanded credit, was paid to the filers or to the parents based on the 2020 tax returns. So obvious issue here. 2020, if you're in a divorced situation with a separation agreement, you claimed the kids in 2020, the IRS sent payments to that individual because you claimed the children or a child in 2020. So the incorrect parent was getting the advanced payment. And I've gotten lots of questions on this. There was, and many individuals missed it, but the IRS did release something called a child tax credit portal, where people in this situation were supposed to go into that portal and elect, hey, don't give me this credit in advance. It's not my credit for this year. It goes to the other person as part of the divorce agreement. But it never worked. People are divorced because they didn't get along initially. So it was tough for one person to get the other to elect out of it so they get the right credits. And the IRS has been hammered with questions on this. So what ended up happening in many cases is the divorced parent who claimed the child or children in 20 got the advance payments. They did not elect out of it. So now I'm getting a lot of questions of, well, I'm the parent that is supposed to get, the 3,000 or 36 for these children for 2021 because I'm the odd year parent, but my ex-partner already claimed that. What's going to happen to my return? Is my return going to be delayed? Am I going to be able to claim the full credit? You can see where it gets messy. And the IRS so far has said, nope, we will, if you file your 2021 tax return and you have 2 dependents on there and you say you receive none of the advanced child tax credit, they will get the full credit without, a further review by the IRS. So they have came out and said, hey, it's okay. We're not going to delay your tax return processing because you're claiming the kids this year when in 2020 they were claimed by another parent. Just a major issue. The 2020, the ex-partner may end up having to repay the advance credit, but the IRS has even came out and said you can fill out a form to be exempt from having to repay any of the advancement of the credit. So it's a very unique situation. But I've seen already this year, we've been doing VITA, now we're going into 4 weeks. I've seen a couple of cases of this already. In any case, the letter 6419 is the official IRS letter that they mail out to all recipients of the advanced child tax credit. And in the cases that I have seen, the clients that have came in with this, the letter's been accurate. There hasn't been any issues between the letter says I got this and I really didn't get that amount. So that has been nice to see, but they just sent those out. So last week or the week before is when I first started seeing clients coming in with these letters. Before that, we were just relying on them saying, yep, I got the advanced child tax credit. It is important to know it's $3,000 or $3,600 per qualifying child. And it is an interesting credit because if you have lots of kids and you qualify for it, it's a substantial amount of money. I think the largest return so far I've seen this year, almost $20,000 with the advanced child tax credit and the amounts received. So it can be a life-changing amount that these individuals are receiving. There are phase out, there are income ceilings for the child tax credit. They're pretty standard. I believe it's 150,000 if you're married filing joint. That's the start of the phase out, and then you're completely phased out of the credit at 160. No, I apologize. It's 200 and 400. So there are thresholds. If you're married filing joint and you make $200,000 or made 200,000 or reported income of 200,000 in 2021, then these credits start phasing out, and it's some weird like $50 for every $1,000 amount over the 200,000 that you are. I think 400,000 for married filing joint is the cap. So if you made more than that as a married filing joint, then you do not get any of the child tax credit. So very interesting one I certainly seen a lot of in the VITA experience so far this year. That is not the only one. The other one is the rebate, the RRC, rebate recovery credit. So this is more commonly known as the stimulus payments. The third one is the final one to my knowledge right now. So there were two previous ones. Those occurred in 2020, the last one occurring in 2021. So we need to report this on, and clients or taxpayers will need to report this on their taxes as well. In most of the cases I have seen, people have received the third stimulus payment, and that amount is $1,400 per qualifying individual listed on the tax return, eligible individual. The eligibility requirements for this one, it's 150,000 or less. So if you're a married filing joint situation and you make 150,000 or less, you got the full $1,400 credit. But this one's interesting too because it's another advancement of a credit. It's based off of the 2021 tax year. So if in 2020 people made less than the 150,000, the IRS sent them this payment for everyone listed on the tax return. 2021, they may be over that amount, but it's based on the 2020 taxes initially. So the IRS come and said they will issue this advancement based on 2019, 2020, or 2021. So there are situations where individuals will not qualify for this advances third payment, the $1,400, because their 2020 income exceeded the $150,000 married filing joint threshold. It's $112,500 threshold for head of household, 75 for all others, like the single, married filing, separate filing statuses. That's the beginning of the phase out range. They're completely phased out at 160, 120, and 80. So if you're a single filer and you made more than 80,000 in 2020, then you did not get this rebate recovery credit. But in 2021, which is last year, If you made less than 80,000, then you could be eligible for this third stimulus payment. In the VITA program, where we're dealing with lower income individuals, we don't see much of, if any, of the clientele that haven't or are not eligible for this credit. But in other situations, if you're looking at this present and want to know for your own tax purposes, and if you're single and you're over the 80,000 threshold, or you were over it in 2020, but in 2021 your income was substantially less than 80,000, and if it was below 75, you get the full amount of the credit, but you have to file your 2021 taxes. You have to claim the credit on your 2021 tax return. So it will be unique situations, especially if there was a major change for individuals between 2020 and 2021. The credit could be different. Yeah, I hear some questions.
Yep, you've got a few questions here, Scott. The first one is on the child tax credit. We had someone who asked, what if you did not receive the child tax credit? We had a child in June and have not received any payment.
Great. I totally skipped over that part. So thank you to whoever asked that, John, or Sarah. So that is a good question. The child tax credit, I'm back up here. So yes, please interrupt me and ask questions. So the advanced child tax credit. So this one is, the advanced payment was given based on 2020 taxes, but the credit is associated to 2021 taxes. So what that means is if you had a child in 2021, you did not get the advancement of this credit, but you are eligible for, if the child was born December 31st, 2021, that child is eligible for the new child tax credit. So they would get the 3,600, because obviously if they're a newborn, they're less than 5. So they'd get that full $3,600 amount because the child was born in 2021. No advancement would have been paid because the IRS doesn't know until a tax return is filed. So when you file your 2021 taxes, you'll have your newborn baby on there, and it will calculate, hey, you only received, $1,500 for another child that you already had that was claimed on the 2020 taxes, but now you have this new child, so we're going to give you an additional $3,600 for that child. So good question.
Thank you. And we've got another question. John asks, is the child tax credit received by the IRS deemed dollar for dollar income added to one's gross income in 2021, or is the credit applied as a formula to your gross income when filing?
Great question, John. So all of the advancement of tax credits here, so the child tax credit and the rebate recovery credit are non-taxable. So they're not going to be part of your adjusted gross income. They're not going to be a part of your modified adjusted gross income. They're not reported as income on a tax return. They are reported on a tax return just so the IRS knows, hey, did you get these credits in advance or did you not? Because if you didn't get these credits, or you had a situation that changed that makes you eligible for these credits, then you can get them when you file your 2021 tax return. So that is another good question that we get a lot of, because when we have clients come in and we start asking them, hey, did you get your stimulus money? Did you get your advance? The first thing they say is, why do I need to tell you that? This is not tax. It's not taxable income. And we have to explain to them, well, and it doesn't take very long. Like, oh, that makes sense. It's like, well, they're advanced, so we want to make sure you receive the credit, because if you didn't, we'll claim it and get it on your tax return now. Good question, John. Yeah, and Whitney, if you can just keep telling me if other questions pop up, or Eric, I'll just stop and address them.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so newborns, definitely, if you have a newborn in 2021, you'll get that $3,600, and that will come through on your 2021 tax return. So you couldn't get an advance payment for that child, but you will get it when you file your taxes. Another interesting aspect of the rebate recovery credit here are, you didn't claim an individual, maybe you have a college age student who's in college and claimed themselves in 2020, but then moved back home, did online classes, and lived with you in 2021. So now you're claiming that child on your 2021 taxes. Well, you would not have received the 1,400. So the third stimulus payment here is 1,400 per person listed on the tax return. So if you're married filing joint, the taxpayer and spouse, 1,400 apiece, of 2,800 total, and then 1,400 for each dependent. So if that college age student wasn't a dependent in 2020 but is one in 2021, well, now you can get that third economic payment for that individual that was not on your 2020 taxes. Same thing with newborns in this case. If the newborn, obviously the newborn was not listed on the 2020 return, well, they will be on the 2021. That now makes you eligible. And I can kind of show you how softwares handle this, but now you'll get that amount for the third economic impact or stimulus payment.
And Scott, we've got another question. Sarah's asking, is there a way to check if you got the last payment if you don't remember?
Yes. So the IRS, and I mentioned it here, they should be mailing, and I have already seen clients bring them in, so they should have mailed them all out. They should have mailed the 1444-C. So the first two stimulus payments were A and B letters. This one's C. So definitely be checking your mail for that. They'll tell you the exact amount that you should have received for the stimulus payment. Remember, for the advanced child tax credit, it's letter 6419. And that one is a little weird because if you're married filing joint and have, let's say, two kids, it would split it between the taxpayer and spouse. It's just they didn't put it in one letter. They said two letters, one to the taxpayer, one to the spouse, for the total amount of the advance. It's just a waste of paper in my opinion, but it's something we've already dealt with. So you have to watch for two letters if you're in a married situation. So letters are the number one way to ensure, hey, I don't remember if I got it. What did the IRS send me that is saying that I did actually receive it? We've had clients obviously not remember, and we have them go back. You should have received a direct deposit if you filed your 2020 taxes with direct deposit, which is pretty common these days. Should have received a deposit from the United States Treasury in March, February, or I think even January, although it's been mostly February, March of 2021. So we always have them go back and look and say, oh yeah, I did end up getting these amounts. And it's $1,400 for each person listed on their 2020 taxes. So it can be a large amount. So many people, they'll recall getting the amount or not. So the letter or going back and checking, or you can set up an account on irs.gov. It's an online account. Many taxpayers already have one. And through that online account, you can see the IRS will say, well, for this Social Security number, for this particular situation, we've sent this X amount of stimulus payments to this person. But that's all through your online. It's the same online account where you can go and get transcripts of tax returns that you've submitted in the past. It's a free account to set up. So if you do not have one, you just go to the irs.gov website. And you can go through the process of setting one. It does take a little bit of time. You got to verify your identity and all. They ask very weird questions. They ask, what credit cards do you own? It is an interesting process. We've had some clients fail trying to set up an online account, because I remember a situation last year. I was trying to help this young guy set up an IRS account, and it asked for his phone number, his cell phone number. And he told me, he's like, I have, 5 different cell phones. I'm like, why do you have 5 different cell phone numbers? But he couldn't pass the test to set up an account, which is just strange to me because he didn't know the cell phone number that he used on a previously filed tax return. But easy for most to set up that account. And then once you have that account set up, you can see what payments have been sent to you. The child tax credit, you can also, it's called the Child Tax Credit Update Portal. It's on the irs.gov, but that is a separate portal that you can use to see what advance payments were sent if you didn't get a letter, or if you think there's a discrepancy between the letter and what you actually received. The Child Tax Credit Update Portal on irs.gov is where you would go to check for that. Go ahead.
Got another question. Hannah asked, I received letter 6475 that totaled the credits we received last year. Is that different or just an alternative?
6470, that totaled the credits we received last year. Is that different or an alternative? I've heard of the 6475. It should say, and I have not actually seen, Hannah, one of those come in yet. But the IRS has been, and I just received an email a few days ago about this letter. But that is a total of all the credits, to my understanding. So it should have separation between, was this an advanced child tax credit, or was this a economic impact payment, a stimulus payment credit? Those would be the only two that you would have received. Yeah, so that's the stimulus credits. It's called 6475, so it would be the same thing as the 1444C. Yeah, so the online tools are, I do want to emphasize one more item on setting up an account online. The IRS has came out and posted a couple of articles online about emphasizing the use of online tools, getting taxpayers to use those, and that is solely to prevent you from calling the IRS. I don't know if any of you have went through the horrible experience of calling the IRS, but it is an hours-long process, and a lot of times you will not get through. So if your last resort is having to call the IRS, set aside a day to do it, or try your best to use the tools. They have been doing a lot of work trying to get these tools streamlined, get information through these portals on the irs.gov website, just so they can cut down on the volume of calls that they get. The IRS is completely overwhelmed right now with all these pandemic-related tax changes. I know of instances where people still have not received their refund from last year, and they filed their taxes, by the deadline of last year, which was extended a month. And they haven't received the refund. They've been trying to call. It's very difficult to get a hold of anyone at the IRS. So the online tools are certainly your best route to go there. All right. So those are the two big ones I wanted to get through. These are all federal items, so you're reported on your federal return. The deadline this year, if you're wondering, is April 18th. So they extended it one more weekend, which always makes CPAs and tax accountants super happy, because they get one more weekend to work and make sure all of the taxes are submitted in time. I cannot recommend enough to e-file your taxes. If you, and I still know of people that, nope, I'm going to do pencil paper. They are, good luck. They are still trying to get through. So the paper filing, someone at the IRS has to physically open those and look at it. They are months behind on doing that. They have come out and said, do not paper file. Expect to be waiting up to a year if you're going to paper file. So e-filing is the way to go. There's a bunch of free tools. I know you see TurboTax has some free aspects, H&R Block. The IRS actually has a file your taxes free, and I'll show it to you. If you go to taxhelp.davenport.edu, we have a link to it here. This is our VITA area. So if we do my free taxes is the link here, but you can also Google it. And this is an IRS offering, and it will walk you through, you have to meet some income limitations, but it will walk you through an online way to file your taxes. Super helpful. You have to be below that 73,000 for 2021, but this allows you to e-file your taxes. It's only for federal. I believe we can do the state of Michigan through here, but I do not recall if that will be part of the file my taxes for free. Yep, thank you for putting that. Yeah, this is just taxhelp.davenport.edu. It is a different name up here, but if you do taxhelp.davenport.edu, you'll find that link right on our homepage. I do want to, I know we're running out of time here. I probably won't, probably can. I'm going to briefly talk about Michigan taxes, assuming we're all Michigan residents here. But there are a couple of Michigan items applicable to the American Rescue Plan that I want to talk about. One that isn't is the homestead property tax credit. Those are the eligibility requirements listed on my slide here. If you have or made, even if you're married, filing joint, or single, if you made less than $60,600, you're eligible for this credit. The taxable value of your home has to be less than $136,600. You can be a renter and be eligible for this credit. So if you're renting a room in a home or you're renting from an apartment, this is a credit that you are eligible for if you make less than $60,600. And it can be up to a $1,500 refundable credit, given your situation. So if you made less than that, 60,600, and your taxable value of your home, or if you rent, there is no taxable value limitation. You're eligible for this Michigan credit, which is a very big one. We see a lot of it for the VITA program, and it's very, very helpful. We get a lot of questions, I guess, for the homestead property tax credit. I'll skip that part. I'm going to go to the stimulus payments because we get this question. Stimulus payments are not taxable in Michigan, so you do not have to worry about that. Unemployment, if you received unemployment in 2021, Michigan got an extension from the federal government to mail unemployment forms to eligible or people collecting unemployment in 2021. So you probably have not received your form yet. It's a 1099-G unemployment compensation from the state of Michigan if you had unemployment last year. And that is because Michigan messed up, sent a bunch of unemployment payments to incorrect individuals, and now they're just trying to sort through all of that. They've been granted until the end of February to mail these out. So if you collected unemployment last year, just be careful on filing your taxes early because you probably do not have that form, or if you do have it, it might be an incorrect form. All right. Tax, I just want to show you really quick. This is the software we use for our VITA program. I'll go to it. I thought I had it open. Maybe it's on the other monitor that I turned off. But I do want to just show you what you could see if you were filing your taxes on your own, because this is TaxLayer is a software individuals can use. And I'm going to start a new return. I'll just make up but there's very specific, and you'll see it here. I'll say I'm single. And TaxLayer is not going to be too much different from TurboTax. You start filling out all your personal information. I can do all of this. Date of birth. One. Oops. One, 2, 0, 1. Teacher. Just fill out 555. Home. To go to the next page here, 49503, 616, 1222, 234. And then you ask Michigan, we'll say Grand Rapids, but I want to show you the COVID-related items here. Let's say Grand Haven, and no. Nope, no qualifying kids, but right. Ask a couple initial questions before we can get into the extra part here. So, you know, W-2 earned income, but you'll see here COVID-19 relief. And this is where you report how much did you get of the advanced child tax credit? How much of stimulus did you receive? So it's called the RRC, Recovery Rebate Credit. You do the summary print here. I know this might hate me for leaving it blank, but this is, you know, the 1040 current iteration of the 1040, but you'll see on the back recovery rebate credit. So if you're looking at or you're doing your taxes on your own and you're expecting, hey, I did not get that stimulus payment, look on the back of your, you know, your 1040, your printout after you go through the whole software process, and you should see amounts populate here. You'll see these are all refundable amounts, so they're increasing your refund here if they're reported in this section. The refundable child tax credit would be here. The dependent and care credit is also on the back here. There's non-refundable pieces. I believe that might be a separate schedule that gets attached to their earned income credit. Goes here. Yeah, the dependent care credit must be on another schedule. I think it might be schedule 3, line 15. So that's your dependent care credit. Just be looking for, if you're filing your taxes, those numbers, if you're expecting to get those, or make sure they're zero, because I have seen too that, you know, if you're trying to do this on your own and you thought you said you got the stimulus payment, but it came through and said you didn't, so it's increasing your refund. I've talked with a couple of people who said, hey, I got this huge refund coming, it's awesome, but they're incorrectly reporting some items. So just important to watch out for that stuff. All right, the last item, and thank you for listening. I know it's probably a lot of information. The last item I would like to talk about is the VITA program. I do want to plug that really quickly. This is just some information. So right now, and that taxhelp.davenport.edu site has all 10 sites. If you are a person that makes below 60,000, you're eligible to use our VITA program. So you can make an appointment. Appointments are made through 211. All the appointment or how to make the appointment information is listed on our taxhelp.davenport.edu. Many of our sites are booked through April 18th. But we have 10 different sites in the Kent and Ottawa County areas. We have over 130 volunteers this year, which is awesome. Many of them are community member volunteers. There is still time to get involved if you want to help with this program. You do not need to be an accounting or finance professional. You just need to pass the certification test by the IRS. Davenport has a ton of training resources that we use to help volunteers get through the certification process. And then I just always like to share, what has the VITA program done for our community? So from 2002 through 2020, so the most recent tax year, these are the totals. And I always like to point out, we've returned through this program over nearly 85 million in refunds. We did almost 8 million in refunds last year. I know it's a lot to ask volunteers to come and do this. There's just tons of information. It changes constantly. But when they see the impact of this is, 8 million to return to the community you live in. This is indirectly helping if your family owns businesses in this area. These people could be taking and using their money, their refunds there. It's just such a tremendous help to the community. And really, if our major constraint is volunteers. We cannot get enough volunteers. We are way down this year. These 130, the majority of those are community. We usually have more, Davenport students or other college students than community member volunteers, but not this year. I think that has a little bit to do with the pandemic. But it is an awesome program. Something that Judy Knapp has started. She's primarily responsible for all these amounts, I've been trying to do my best to keep up what she has created, but it is an awesome program and something that I'm very proud to be a part of here at Davenport. But that brings us right to 11:45. Hopefully that was informed. Are there any other questions? Even if it's just a general text question, I'd be happy to answer those right now.
It looks like Sarah just wanted to give you a little kudos. I was in the first semester of accounting. You taught at DU, Sarah Carpenter. I was part of the middle college program. Nice to see you again.
Sarah, well, nice to hear from you. Hopefully all is well. You know, the world has drastically changed, probably since I had you in class till now. John, I don't know who you are, but I appreciate it. Hopefully you learned a lot. I'm assuming these are all Davenport alumni, which is cool, or hopefully they are.
Well, Scott, thank you so much. Taxes can often be confusing and have a lot of questions, so I hope this was really helpful to a lot of folks here. Before you sign off, I am just dropping a link in here quickly. If you happen to be local to Grand Rapids, we have an upcoming tubing event this Saturday at Cannonsburg. Feel free to sign up. Our next Davenport Dialogues, which is next month, March 16th, we've got alumni Vonnie Woodrick, who is talking about bringing understanding to something difficult to understand, so some mental health. So feel free, that's also on that events page to register for. This, as I mentioned earlier, is recorded, so my counterpart Eric Dane and I will be putting that together. You will receive a follow-up email that'll have that recording in it, and also we request that you take that survey. Let us know how you felt about this. And thank you everyone for joining us. Please contact us if you have any questions or any follow-up. And again, Scott, thank you so much for this information. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Whitney.